Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brett Carruthers, for those who haven't met me yet. So it's a great opportunity to be over here with the active MacroView Users Group. And what we've done this year, we've made a product. We've called it rAware, and the product was made to replace an existing paging system for one of our customers. And so obviously we've branded it and set it out to sell to other customers and for users without and with different systems. So we're calling it the rAware, and we're selling it as part of the Optrix company. Now, I'm actually from III, so it's quite confusing how there's several companies. But yeah, so I'm from New South Wales, from III. I've just completed a cadetship with the company, and we work on a range of different systems. We work with MacroView and all sorts of different SCADA and PLC and DCS systems. Okay, so perspective. Why do we use this platform? Well, perhaps I'll talk about why we did this in the first place. We had an old site which had a paging system which was developed primarily in software. I had a large part of developing that in about 5 years ago. And what we did is we had several different third-party components sitting together, and we found that certain bugs propped up with different pieces of software, and we just didn't have control to be able to make a flexible and a working paging system. So we turned around and wanted to make our own. And so in making our own, we needed to determine, well, what's the best way to do it? And being advocates of Linux and advocates of MacroView, we chose this platform. So obviously Linux, the reliability is the biggest factor for us. We want to be able to put a paging system somewhere and it just sits there for 10 years without dying. So that's our aim and goal. And obviously the cost of Linux is quite attractive. MacroView, I don't really need to sell you guys on the idea of MacroView too much, but we liked it for the ideas of the integration that we could use, its reliability, once again, due to the platform as well, and for the drivers. We didn't want to go to the level of writing our own drivers to talk to PLCs for a paging system. We wanted to work with tried and proven software and move ahead without having to do that ourselves. Okay, so features and alarms. So the features for alarming. So the paging system can work with SMSs or emails. Now we could add in future methods of communication, but at this point, this is all we've done. So the alarm system will SMS someone, tell them there's an alarm, and it's highly configurable, as I'll go through with the demos, as to what messages come up and what happens. So we alarm off the alarms in MacroView. So there's a web configuration, which I'll show later, which can be selected to page for entire areas or specific MacroView alarms that will come up. It can also email if that's desired. Okay, so the system has group alarming. So what you can do is, if you've got a section of your plant which is maintained by 2 or 3 contractors, for instance, it was particularly the case for us with this site that we made this paging system for, they'd have a few different people that would maintain an area of the site, and it was critical. If this area of the site went down, this is Sydney Markets, which is refrigeration for produce, and if this particular refrigeration went down, they could lose hundreds of thousands of dollars of produce. So what the site do, is they out-farm their maintenance to contractors, and if anything goes wrong, it pays a contractor. Now, the site themselves aren't going to know whether the contractor actually knew whether the alarm's there or whether they're going to turn up, but they need a quick response no matter what. So that's why one of the main objectives of this system was to have group alarming. So if there was an alarm, it could page out to all of these contractors at once, or alternatively, they can set up to escalate. So say the first person in the queue gets messaged, and if they haven't answered or done anything by 10 minutes or half an hour or whatever configurable rate they want, it will go to the next person on the list, and so on. And then once that's exhausted, it can repeat and start again. So that's what the group alarming of this software does. Okay, so as I explained before, or mentioned, there's a web interface. So what we do is we work off this web interface, and once I change this video connection over soon, you'll see what the web interface does, and you can configure the entire paging system, what contacts are in there, how the formatting of some of the messages are, and who they go to and what delays and escalation rates. You can also look at the current status of alarms and see what's going on at the moment in the paging system. So as before, all these alarms are from MacroView. So we look directly at the alarms DBF, and we bring in these alarms and only show them up in our system if you've configured the paging system to alarm on these MacroView alarms. Okay, so one of the other features we introduced in the system, we had a particular type of alarm at this site where they were key switch alarms. So by just acknowledging, firstly, you can acknowledge these alarms and it can stop the alarm from going on, the escalation and all those types of things. But what we also added into it was the ability for an acknowledgement to also run a script or take an action. So start or stop a pump, for an example. So at this particular site, we had key switch alarms, which needed separate alarm resets written to a PLC. So what we did is we added the ability to be able to take actions, and when people acknowledge, either via the web interface or via an SMS, because they can also acknowledge by returning with an SMS, it can run this script and do something at the plant. Now this obviously could be an issue if it's a critical area, so that's also that's the decision of the site whether that's where they want to go or not. Okay, so flexibility, we made it as flexible as we could. We actually went through a few revisions with our customer because they were quite difficult in their requirements, and thus, I didn't have any requirements at all, so it changed every time we turned up. But basically, we made it as flexible as we could. So the SMSs you get an SMS or an email. So for an alert, you can get a message when the alarm starts, when someone acknowledges it, when it goes away, and also when the alarm goes okay but it was never acknowledged. And then you've got the options to turn escalation off, to change the timing, and also to set up scripts. And there's also separate scripts, so you can set up global scripts where someone can send a message to the system, and it can run a script totally separate or independent of the actual core alarming itself. Okay, so obviously security is a big issue because we don't. Obviously it would be hard for someone to figure out what to send to wreck a plant. But if someone knew what to do, we don't want someone that's not authorised to start this pump in this particular area of the plant when they're not meant to. So we've set up a security system as well. So for the acknowledgements from SMS, excuse me, acknowledgements from SMS can only be done by the person that's part of the group. So this particular contractor in this particular area of this refrigeration plant could only respond, and his only response from his mobile phone number would run this script. Now, web security is also there. So each user has a login and a password, and that's stored. So someone has to use their login to log in and click the act button, which I'll demonstrate in a sec. We needed to have security as well to move with this system. All right. So the target market we were looking at for us for this first site. Their main drive for doing this was critical operation, because if their refrigeration fell over, they would lose produce, and then the tenants would sue the actual markets, and then they'll have legal battles and they'll lose money, which they don't want to do. So that's what we term this site as a critical operation. But we also think this could be useful out in other places where remote monitoring for environmental type related issues. For instance, some of the mines over in New South Wales, if their emissions don't meet their EPA licence, they can get in a lot of trouble. And sometimes they may not know if the levels are going wrong, if the control operator hasn't responded to an alarm for their SCADA system, or if someone hasn't detected what's going on. So that's another good element for a paging system like this. It can alert someone and continually alert someone if they're ignoring it. So you can be sure that something will get done when there's a big problem going along. And so that's why I've said here, any sites with legal, financial, or safety implications. Safety is another factor as well, of course. All right, so let's do a little demo. I'll just change over this video, so bear with me, please. What resolution was this running at, Doug?
I think it's 1024 by 768.
Right.
But the monitor will handle anything. Sorry, the thing will go up to 1280 by 102.
Sure. So. Just going to watch out. This laptop has a horrendous resolution. It's like 1900. So what I've done is I've actually brought over our development system here. So you can see for this site they didn't run MacroView at all. So what we did is we installed a standalone solution. So I don't know if I'm going to pull any cables here, but if you can see here I've got an embedded PC, an embedded computer, an Advantech computer. And we like these because they're low cost and we can install them in panels and sit them in a computer room, and then no one knows what's going on, basically. So for a standalone computer solution, we like these, and obviously for the SMS and GSM access, we use a Wavecom GSM modem. We could use any type of modem, but we've obviously tailored our software for that particular modem.
They're about $1,300, those.
Yeah, yeah. And this is a 1.4 gigahertz Pentium, and we've got a gig of RAM in it, and it can run off a CF flash card, or you can run it off a small form laptop hard drive, which we are. So at the moment, I think this one's got a 40 gig hard drive in it.
For the Windows desktop, if you want to run the Windows desktop at a remote place, you can put some.
Yeah, the supplier tells me they've been very popular in
those
Queensland.
What are they called?
Advantech. The company's Advantech, yeah. So.
And they're local, aren't they?
Oh no, they're a national company.
Oh,
they're a national company, yeah. They're a Schneider partner and all of those types of things, so they're largish. Apologise for the delay, people. There we go. All right. Excellent. Okay, so this is our. So firstly, I'll just show you. This is what we've got for an intranet site. So basically, if you had one of these systems on your network, you could integrate this, have a link on your intranet site, or a link straight from your SCADA system, provided it's on the same Ethernet network. And the reason why we wanted to go for this, we didn't want to write a separate binary application that would have to have an installer for and all those types of issues. So it was quite handy to have a standalone Ethernet system. So I've got a login set up, but as I mentioned before, different users have their different login, and each of their different login only lets them do certain elements, including configuration, of course. So at the moment, we have all these different things, menus, and I'll go through them quickly. But alarm status, you can always check the current alarm status of your alarms on the system. At the moment, I haven't got anything started, so if I've got a VNC connection here over to my box. That's a bit better. Okay, so I've just got a local source driver configured for now because I don't have any PLCs that this MacroView system's talking to. But what I might just do, I've got myself and Doug in the list, but could I get a volunteer to add into the paging list? Yeah. Hold on, I'll just add you in. So we go to contact groups, and the one I'm working off is site security. I've got partially part of the config from this other site still set up. So I'm going to add a new contact. All right.
0417.
Oh, what's your name,
Ross.
sir? First?
Ross.
Ross?
Sorry.
No worries. Don't know if it's needed, but I might just put it in just in case.
McKinley. McKinlay.
L-O-Y?
L-A-Y.
No worries. Okay, and your mobile phone is?
So you'll have to buzz that one out in the
Yeah. Okay, so here we've got this is an escalation queue. So this alarm is configured, and I can show you the alarm type in a sec. But this alarm is configured for any of these groups. If we scroll down, I've got these groups, and they're areas in your entities.dbf file. So any alarms that are set up that use that entity, and if that entity is part of that area, will go into this particular paging group that I've made. So I've got it set up here, so Doug should get a message straight away. It wasn't coming through specifically instantly before, but then we should see an escalation of each minute to Ross and then to myself. Just get this. All right, so that's just the web configurator. So just in the background, I'm going to raise an alarm now. So I've got an alarm and an entity defined called Seca 1001. And now I've got that up there, we should see in MacroView, we've got our alarm. Now if we go back to the web configurator, what the customer sees at this particular site, obviously if you have a MacroView system as well, you'll see your alarms everywhere. We can see here we've got an alarm, and it's yellow. So it's not yellow. It's red, so it's in alarm. And so here we've got the option to acknowledge it.
I got it.
You got it? Beautiful. So what I might do is just wait a minute, just to prove that the escalation works. Unfortunately, we didn't set it up to go any smaller than a minute, so.
Saying the AH fruit supply burglary.
Yes, these alarms.
Stealing the fruit.
You're not stealing my fruit.
Bananas. Have you seen the price of bananas?
Don't joke. Don't joke. They're like that.
I just was at Paddy's Market. I tell you, they're bloody well like that.
Yeah, well.
I say you'll pay.
Yeah, I tell you, it's a bit of a fright to open this site as well, because I think they've got the highest forklift fatalities in the Southern Hemisphere. You drive around and these guys just don't look. They just don't care. Safety is not a factor. It's a very dodgy site.
And they don't call them tines, they call them skewers.
So just while we're looking at that, I'll explain alarm types, or just quickly run through it for you. So there's all these different sections we can set up. Actually, I'll show you reports. Here in this notification log, we can see all of the different alarms that are sent off. So there's obviously quite a few alarms up here when I was mucking around as I connected it up this morning. So yeah, we've seen our first one down here. A&H Fruit Supply Burglary. That's the name of this particular alarm I raised in MacroView. And we see here 1 and 2 is Doug's number, and 2 is Ross's number.
Oh, yes, you've got that.
Yep. And so you can access all the logs. We actually have a debug log as well, which is just in the file system. We haven't given any. You can turn debug levels on if you want to look at what's going on. This event will monitor the alarms DBF. The actual program, if I talk a bit more technically, the program uses a C++ interface directly into MacroView, and we can run metascripts directly. So we actually use metascripts to check. There's my message. We use metascripts to check the alarms DBF, and all of our access to the alarms DBF is we try and focus on using the metascript so we don't, mess up any access between applications. So now that we've all got that, so in a few minutes it would start again if I just waited. But let's have a look at the alarm. Now I'm logged in as myself, as B Carruthers, if you saw when I logged in. So I can acknowledge this alarm now. And I've got this alarm set up to also tell everyone in the group that, when it's acknowledged, so everyone knows what's going on and it stops raising. So there's mine. Yep, did you get one?
That's Telstra, that's what that's from.
Hey, I'm with Optus, and I tell you, I get terrible reception of all the collieries I go to. I hate it.
Good thing to be.
But I don't want to get into the telco debate. I might get in trouble. So that's what we see. So now that will stop escalating for this particular alarm type. So I'll just quickly show you how you can configure them if you wanted to create different types. So I've got all sorts of different types here from the Sydney market system, but the one that these alarms are part of is Group 4 default. This goes to their site security. So here we've set it up with all these checkboxes. So an alarm can escalate or it won't. So you can have alarms that only just get sent out and that's it. They don't keep going, because there might be alarms that people want to know about, but if they don't get to it, they can come in the next day and they'll get it, and then it's not a problem. Users can acknowledge alarms, because what we found at this site, they didn't want the security guards maintaining the site to be able to acknowledge alarms on the plant, because they didn't trust them. They were old and they didn't trust them, so it was caused us a little bit more development work than we expected. But now we've got a very flexible system. So yes, you can actually block acknowledgement for certain alarms. So if you've got someone that you just want to keep sending the alarm to make sure they do something about it, or just get bloody annoyed and just let them turn their phone off or something, you can do that. And so if we look here, we can do all the different elements. We can have a message on alarm raised, alarm acknowledged. Then we can have 2 different messages for alarm OK, because alarm can go OK, acknowledged or non-acknowledged. So we call it a NAC in our little message, so a not acknowledged alarm. And if you really want to go to all the levels, if an alarm is acknowledged and it's still sitting there in MacroView, the process fault hasn't gone away, you can still define in your escalation queue. So even if someone acknowledges the alarm, you can keep sending it until someone bloody does something, because something might be that critical that you need to. So you can make as many alarm types as you wish, and allocate allocate alarms to that particular alarm type. Now, if I just talk a little bit more about how it works, we haven't finished all of this configuration website yet, because we're sort of not knowing how far we want to go with configuring some of the functions of MacroView itself. So it's obviously going to differ for different users. So for people like yourselves that use MacroView and have expertise with MacroView, you may not want to do this. But for customers that have standalone systems, they may not even know that there is MacroView in this at all. So obviously we can have a look at our areas. The ones that we were looking at there was SecP dial, and so we can see there SECA 101 and all of those things. So we've got that, and all of this information is actually stored in LDAP. So we've used LDAP. If anyone knows what LDAP is, it's Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. It's a big word to swallow, but it's similar to what things like Microsoft Exchange use, a directory service where you can store a series of information. It's like a database, but it's just another type of database. And the reason why we chose LDAP is we wanted to get it ready for if a bigger site that wanted to have such a system wanted to link into their Exchange system, we could probably do that because we've used LDAP. So we could actually get our stuff in and create some custom schema for an Exchange server schema, and then we wouldn't need to run any of this back end at all. But we run it, and it's open LDAP, and it's open source and free with Linux, as everyone knows. We've only made this for Linux, so if someone wanted it for SCO, we'd have to turn around and do that development exercise. And as I said before, you can have scripts, but we haven't set it up here. So if someone wanted to send a script, send a report, you can send a thing to say, give me the daily report to my email, or whatever you want. You've got a script, a Linux script, you can set it up and do whatever you like to do. So you've got PLCs and tags, but I won't bore you with all of the... I mean, they're just basically different BBS files that everyone here knows in MacroView. So we've got reports, we've got configuration. So we also made it a little... you can have your different ports for your email and servers. We also made it so we can... I don't think we've actually put it into this one yet, but you can actually change the format of the message. So for the gents that got the messages, you can actually change the way it works. You can actually put a prefix at the start of the SMSs, because Sydney Markets had one contractor that gets sent lots of different sites, SMSs for different sites, so they didn't know whether it was coming from Sydney Markets, so we had to do another change. So yeah, you can have a site prefix as well with your SMSs. Obviously, the SMS format's only 160 characters in length, so if someone wants to go that far and push it that far, it will send two, and hopefully they're smart enough to make it shorter, so they don't have to send two SMSs for each alarm. So that's basically the core of the paging system. You know, I just have to separate back to my presentation. Sorry, guys. There we go. That's beautiful. All right, so that was a quick demo of how it all works. So yeah, have we got any questions?
If for some reason the alarms are unable to be sent, what action is then taken?
Well, in a critical, if you have alarms that are critical, we would recommend that you put them on escalation. So if the SMS network has got problems or is not working, theoretically within half an hour or whenever you choose to escalate the alarm, another one will be sent. And obviously at some point in the next week or whatever, someone might get a few of their messages at once. But obviously we are stuck with the reliability of the GSM network. As I said before, we could quite easily integrate paging systems as well, like actual pages. Some people use them. At this site, we actually send an email to one of our contacts, and they have their own service with Orange. And then Orange then has their own pages, which they send to them. So we can do that with this. But we could integrate directly into pages if someone wanted it in the future. But since we didn't have to do it, we haven't gone through that development exercise yet.
If I acknowledge this alarm, is it logged that I've acknowledged it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Certainly is. Yeah, that log.
How would you? Yeah.
Oh, how would you? Well, that's one of the problems we had with the security guys, because they're not too good. There's actually one old guy, and he's going strong. He's 71, and he's still the security guard at Sydney Markets. So obviously for him, writing AC and then space the tag name or alarm area wasn't too easy for them. But that's how you do it with an SMS with a mobile phone. And that's why we push the web interface, because people can get remote access into their own sites if they want to, and they can just use the web interface to tick, because it is hard to send an SMS. But if you are stuck somewhere and it does need to be done, it's still there. It's still an available method to use.
You say you push the web interface. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm imagining that you'll be able to log on to the internet and see your SCADA.
Well, this is for the paging system, so we're focusing on that. It all depends on the site.
No, it's like, Brad, you would get a connection up to Agility.
Yeah.
If you were doing it and you've got a page, you would connect up using your VPN.
VPN connection,
AGL.
yep.
You'd open up the AGL intranet and there would be a link to the alarm system and you'd go in that one.
And you go straight to that.
That's what he means by web access. It's not on the World Wide Web. It's
No.
just on your local internet. But
Yes,
you
that's
should be
right.
able to
Yeah, sorry, web or
access from
intranet access. So yeah, through your VPN connection at home, you could connect up if you didn't want to send those, troublesome to write SMS messages.
Why would you do that, Doug, as opposed to going in to the SCADA as a security thing?
Well, at some sites, if you're
the same thing, actually.
You can.
It would probably acknowledge the alarm in the SCADA.
if sites still have their SCADA access, they can acknowledge from SCADA, and the message still comes through, and they'll still get a message that says it's been acknowledged from SCADA. But for some sites, they don't have the SCADA access at all, and for some sites, they'll only have this. They won't even have a SCADA system.
So you could put this on top of an existing MacroView system that's running.
Yep.
And you could acknowledge your alarms remotely via it, either on the MacroView system or on the remote page.
Yeah.
It uses the same acknowledge field in the MacroView as the other
Yep.
system.
It fixes straight to the DBF. So if you're fishing or you're down the coast, but you've still got network access and you couldn't be buggered to go there, you can still do it.
But they say who actually acknowledged. Normally in the MacroView database, normally it says who
Yes.
or the level of operator that they acknowledge. So it would actually acknowledge that it was acknowledged.
By a
Would
specific
the
operator.
phone number come through?
What happens is, at this point in time, who acknowledges it is logged in one of our logs, so it's a
Yep.
separate log to
But it
MacroView.
wouldn't
I
be
believe the
on-
MacroView would just say local operator or something along those lines, but that wouldn't be a problem to
No, it'd
integrate.
be easy to
Yeah.
put it into
Yeah,
the...
just
The current.
It's very nice to know who.
Yeah, of course, it's
you would
important.
have to have caller ID turned on your phone then to be able to send it back. Would that be right?
Yes.
Otherwise
That's an
the
excellent
lot
question.
system wouldn't-
I don't know if the
Or can any phone number then acknowledge it?
that's why I've got the security. You see, that's why I've got security of the groups. And that's why I mentioned that in the, in the speech.
But I could acknowledge that then on somebody else's phone or on my phone?
No, only on yours,
So-
only from your number.
So you have to have caller ID turned on.
Well, I'm not sure about that.
hide your SMS as well, just your ring.
That's right, because the SMS modem still gets an SMS.
No,
it comes from a
caller ID
number.
is SMS.
It hides SMS as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, because we've got gates that work off somebody calling the gate. It
Okay.
doesn't answer it,
Yeah.
but it just looks at the caller ID, and if that person's on the database, it'll open the gate.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I'm not entirely
No, it's
sure.
not.
But
No, they do.
if it's hidden, yeah, we probably wouldn't be able
Jeff's
to.
phone, it's not blocked.
Yeah,
So he sends, even if it's blocked, it'll still come up on the SMS notification.
As long as the number's programmed into your phone, so if my number's plugged into your phone,
Yeah.
and it's Jeff, then I turn my caller ID off and still send you an SMS, it'll still come up Jeff.
It still sends the...
Yeah, I think it would
So you
because
can't hide.
That's right.
no,
You're SMSing.
that's why. Yeah, that's why I wouldn't be sure, but
So-
it'd be a great test.
Right, the way I see
Yeah.
it is, this is a box that sits near or on the SCADA network
Yep.
and basically enables the sending of emails and SMS.
Yes.
Yeah? That's good, and that makes sense to me. What I don't understand is why that box has MacroView in it.
Because we didn't want to go back to the driver level and write drivers to talk because we're using MacroView to talk to the PLCs.
Fair enough, fair
You
enough.
know,
all right.
we haven't got I/O hardwired to it, and we
All right.
wanted to use the reliable drivers of MacroView to produce a reliable
And
system.
that's MacroView communicate with MacroView using meta servers.
You don't have to have another MacroView.
No.
Eh?
No,
If a place hasn't got SCADA at all,
Yeah.
you can just have this,
Okay.
talking to a PLC. It's a package solution.
yeah, it's a package solution.
I mean,
What we've done for this site.
Usually in this current forum, because a lot of the MacroView so be able to just
For this forum, you guys could just get the software and just get a GSM modem and connect it to one of your MacroView
But
servers.
you need something that drives the alarms, though, wouldn't you? I mean, where would that
Well, the alarms come from MacroView. MacroView does the actual source alarm.
But something has to drive MacroView, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, PLC does, absolutely, yes.
So you'd have an interface from a PLC to that box then?
Yeah, on the Ethernet net. Well, any driver, any mechanism you want.
MacroView in that box. I mean,
Yes.
Tom Smith at the veggie shop there,
Yep.
he doesn't know it's got MacroView, but
No.
it does have MacroView in that box
It
over
does,
there.
that's right.
So, yeah.
That gives them all the architecture and the structure and the support.
So you could get the software,
Yep.
put it onto a MacroView server,
Yeah.
and it'd do all the same shit.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
so in that sense, you could have a PLC connected to that, and
Yep.
that box could be configured to raise a high alarm and a low alarm with set points.
Absolutely. And these particular boxes have 2 serial ports. You can actually get them with 7 serial ports if you want it to be serial. Go nuts with serial, but. Yeah, for this side it's a standalone solution, but it can be a solution for existing systems as well.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So one other thing we did want to ask is if anyone had any ideas of future suggestions, because we've developed the system for our purpose. If anyone has any great ideas, we'd be happy to know them.
Just back with questions. I was wondering, what was interested. How does it actually send the SMS? You still have to subscribe to some service provider.
Oh, you need a net. You do need a
A data.
you know, what are the cards called?
Mobile phone.
Not a mobile phone. SIM card. SIM card. Just couldn't
SIM card, yeah.
You need a SIM card with a non-transparent data number enabled. So you just organise that with the network. That's pretty standard these days.
Cheapest chips, yeah.
Yeah, if you just get yourself a low SMS plan, just whack it in, and then it actually, the guys that saw the SMS, they would have seen the number it came from. So it's acting as a mobile phone.
Yep.
It's as if someone else just SMS'd it. Yeah.
Assuming in the future that, because GSM's turning off next year, so just assuming that whatever other modem is still AT command compatible or whatever, it'll transfer to another technology.
Yeah, well, obviously we'd have to do a bit of testing, but I'm sure that they wouldn't remove the functionality that greatly. So yeah, I'm sure that'd be not a
It
problem.
won't be only your problem. So
Yeah, that's right. I mean, a lot of things are using similar systems. That's right.
Freight machines, for example, have that sort of thing in them.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Alert when they're empty.
So someone can come and check them. Ah.
It's CDMA that will be switched off next year.
Both.
No, GSM will be carried on to about 2012.
Yeah, they've got the.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, as I said before, I don't want to get in the telco debates too much because I don't want to cop that one. But the good thing about our paging system, because there are a lot of paging solutions out there, but the good thing about ours is that it's got the security and the escalation, and it works, and people can do stuff and send it back to take actions at site if they want to, because obviously taking actions without seeing the problem at site is sometimes a safety issue or an issue that shouldn't have been, an action that shouldn't be taken. So yeah, so that's our paging system, rAware.